Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing good. I, your favorite ma'am, welcomes you back to your science lessons. So today we are going to talk about something that is around us. Sometimes we see them and sometimes we cannot see them. Sometimes they harm us and sometimes we get benefit from them. Yes, these are microorganisms. So let's talk about them in detail. So what are microorganisms? They are those tiny organisms which are so small that we cannot see them with an unaided eye. An unaided eye here stands for bare eyes or without the use of any optical instrument. So some microorganisms can be seen with the help of a magnifying glass, while some can only be seen with the use of a microscope. Did you know that microorganisms were first observed by Mr. Anton van Leeuwenhoek? He was the father of microbiology and was one of the very first microscopists and microbiologists. Talking about microscope, it is an instrument that uses lenses to make small objects appear bigger. So with the help of microscope, we are able to see small things that we are not able to see with our naked eyes. Like we have observed the smallest structural and functional unit of living organisms called cell under a microscope and are able to figure out its various parts as well. So where do these microorganisms live? This question can be answered in one single word. Everywhere. Yes, these microorganisms are found everywhere. So microbes can survive in all kinds of environments, from icy cold climate to hot springs, from deserts to wetlands. They can tolerate any temperature or any humidity. Some microorganisms live independently, while others live as a parasite. So these microorganisms are classified into different groups. These groups are bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa, and viruses. So let's start with bacteria first. Bacteria are single-celled disease-causing organisms. They are the smallest and the oldest organisms on our earth. They can be spiral or rod-shaped. Example, Lactobacillus, Streptococcus, Helicobacter. And they cause some diseases like typhoid and tuberculosis. Next is fungi. Fungi are a group of single-celled or multi-celled organisms. They may either be microscopic and unicellular like yeast and molds, or macroscopic and multicellular like mushrooms and toadstools. They are basically non-green plants and they lack chlorophyll. So they derive their nutrition from the decaying matter. So they live as a parasite and derive nutrition from the host. For example, bread mold, penicillium, and aspergillus. The third group of microorganisms we will talk about is algae. Algae are a group of simple plant-like organisms that contain chlorophyll and which are usually aquatic in nature. So since they contain chlorophyll, they can make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Again, they can be unicellular like Chlamydomonas or multicellular like seaweed. The next category is protozoa. Protozoa are a group of animal-like unicellular organisms. Some of them live independently, while others live as parasites. Many of the parasitic protozoans cause diseases in plants, animals, and humans as well, like dysentery and malaria. Examples: amoeba, plasmodium, and paramecium. The last category is virus. Viruses are different from other microbes. They reproduce only inside the cells of a host organisms, which can be plant or an animal or maybe a bacterium. outside the body of a living organism, they do not show any reaction. They are classified as neither living or non-living, neither as plants or animals. Viruses are much smaller than bacteria and come in a variety of shapes and sizes. They can only be seen by an electron microscope. So now that we have talked about microorganisms and their various types, now let's move forward and talk about the benefits that we get from these microorganisms. So we will talk about microorganisms as friends. So there are four ways in which we use microorganisms: commercial, medicinal, agricultural, and environmental. Let's talk about commercial uses of microorganisms. Microbes are used in the industry for many different products, like curd. Curd is produced with the help of a bacteria known as lactobacillus to ferment milk. So a little curd is added to warm milk and is set aside for some time. Then this bacteria, lactobacillus, starts growing in milk and convert milk into curd. Next is fermentation. Fermentation is the process of conversion of sugar into an acid or an alcohol by the action of microorganisms. So production of alcoholic beverages such as beer and wine involves fermentation by yeast. Yeast are nothing but the single-celled microorganisms which are classified as a member of fungus kingdom. The process of making bread also relies on fermentation by yeast. Yeast consumes the sugar in the dough and then produces ethanol and carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide then forms bubbles in the dough and then increases its volume. Similarly, for production of vinegar, acetic acid bacteria play the leading role by oxidizing sugar or ethanol during fermentation. Now let's talk about some medicinal uses of microorganisms. The first and foremost is antibiotics. Certain bacteria and fungi are used in the production of medicines called antibiotics that destroy certain disease-causing microbes. So antibiotics are also used to control microbial diseases in plants and animals. Example, penicillin, which is obtained from the fungus Penicillium, and streptomycin or tetracycline, which are obtained from Streptomyces bacteria. Next is vaccine. A vaccine is a preparation of killed or weakened disease-causing microbes that help immunize people against specific diseases. Let me elaborate it a bit. So when a disease-causing microbe enters our body produces antibodies to fight that invader. Our body also remembers how to fight the microbe if it enters again. So, when a vaccine is given, the body fights and kills the weakened dead microbes by producing suitable antibodies. These antibodies remain in our body and then we are protected from the disease-causing microbes. Some of these microbes are found inside our body as well, like Lactobacillus and Escherichia coli lives in the human intestine, where they help to digest food and destroy disease-causing microbes. Now let's talk about the agriculture use of microorganisms. Microorganisms play a very important role in agriculture because the soil microbes are essential for decomposing organic matter and recycling old plant material. Some soil bacteria and fungi form relationship with plant roots that provide important nutrients like nitrogen or phosphorus. So now let's talk about nitrogen fixation. which is a process by which the free atmospheric nitrogen, which is present in our atmosphere, is converted into nitrogen compounds, which are then absorbed by the plants. So how does this nitrogen fixation happen? Nitrogen is fixed by lightning or by the nitrogen fixing bacteria and blue-green algae in the soil. Leguminous plants such as pea and soybean have nitrogen fixing bacteria, that is rhizobium, present in their root nodules. The nitrogen fixed by these bacteria is taken up by the plant and stored in their tissues as plant proteins. This stored nitrogen passes from these leguminous plants to herbivores and then to carnivores. When these plants and animals die, the nitrogen compounds present in their body are decomposed and return to the soil. Some of these compounds are again absorbed by the plants, while some are returned to the atmosphere by certain bacteria present in the soil. So this natural cyclic process by which atmospheric nitrogen enters the soil and becomes a part of living organisms before returning to the atmosphere is called nitrogen cycle. And now let's talk about the environmental uses of microorganisms. Microbes, such as bacteria and fungi, act on the bodies of dead plants and animals and convert them into simple substances. This process is called decomposition. These substances are then used by other plants and animals. Hence, removal of dead bodies by the action of microbes keeps our planet and our environment clean and healthy. So in this video, we have covered all about the different types of microorganisms as well as the benefit that we derive from them. In the next video, we will cover how do these microorganisms harm us, the means of transmission of different diseases in humans, diseases in plants and animals, as well as food spoilage and preservation. So we have now reached the end of this video. If you like the video, go ahead and press the like button and leave a comment. Don't forget to share and subscribe the channel for the part 2 of this video. Thank you.